Chrisean Rock just got on a plane and detonated her entire life, and I do not think she understands what she has done yet. Baby, get seated. Because a boxing world champion looked Chrisean Rock dead in her face, on camera, and begged her 3 separate times to stay away from a certain man. Told her he is a bad dad. Told her she was setting herself up. And Chrisean Rock looked back at that woman and said, I know. I know. I know. Then Chrisean Rock got on a flight to Miami with him. And while she was sitting at that table in Florida, the woman carrying his child, a woman who is due to give birth any single day now, was at home watching it happen on her phone like the rest of us. And Blueface? Blueface did not deny one letter of it. He got in front of a camera and said, and I want to quote this man exactly, screw it, I cheated. Yeah, so what? Then he said the sentence that I believe is going to haunt Chrisean Rock for the rest of her life. He said they have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. Y'all, this is not a rumor with a soft landing. There are text messages, and Chrisean Rock posted them herself. There is a confession, and Blueface gave it voluntarily. There is a warning on video from an undisputed champion. There is a pregnant girlfriend who answered all of it with one silent clip that had the entire internet decoding it like scripture. And there is a second young lady out here claiming she is pregnant too, which I will get to, because I am not touching that until I have something solid. And underneath all of it, there is one detail from 2 weeks ago that nobody is talking about. One post Chrisean Rock wrote with her own hands that makes this whole week 10 times worse than anybody realizes. I am going to show you that post. I am going to show you the exact order everything happened in, because the order is the entire story. And by the time we get to the end of this, I am going to tell you the one thing I am hearing about who actually arranged that Miami trip and who paid for it. Because if that turns out to be true, then everything you think you know about who is chasing who in this situation is completely backwards. Stay with me. Let us start with the post. Rock, baby, sit all the way down, because what I am about to lay on this table is going to have the entire internet screaming by tonight. Chrisean Rock is in Miami. Blueface is in Miami. Same city, same night, same private table, same car pulling off at 4 in the morning with the windows up. And the woman carrying his baby, the woman who is due to give birth any day now, any single day now, found out the way the rest of us found out. On the timeline, with a phone in her hand and a hospital bag by the door. Y'all better brace up, because this one is not a rumor with a soft landing. This one has receipts, this one has a witness, and this one has a text message thread that she showed the world herself before she deleted her number and disappeared talking about protecting her peace. Protecting her peace. In Miami. With him. Let me tell it properly, because the order is the whole story. 2 weeks ago, Chrisean Rock wrote something that read like a woman closing a door and welding it shut. She said she was changing her number. She said if she is not texting back, do not take it personal. She said everybody was holding her back, needing too much, and her heart was too big to say no. She said she could not hear clearly from God and did not want her vision getting cloudy. She said people were in her way, and not unintentionally. She thought it was the enemy moving through them. Then she apologized to family and associates and asked them not to take it personal. Now, when she writes something like that, her comments fill up with prayer emojis and people saying finally, she is choosing herself. And I understood that, because that post did not read like a caption. It read like a woman standing in the doorway of her own life with her hand on the light switch. But here's the part that has my head spinning. Read that post again and tell me who exactly was holding her back. Who was needing too much? Who was the cloud over her vision? Because if the whole world agreed on one name, one face, one man who fits every one of those descriptions like a custom suit, that name is not a mystery to a single soul watching this. And that same man just got a boarding pass, a hotel key, and a night out. Let me put the receipts down in order. Before Miami, before any of this, she went public with screenshots. Text messages. Blueface reaching out. Trying the door handle again. Not once, not twice, not a drunken slip at 2 in the morning, but a campaign. And she showed them. She put them up for the world to read, and the internet read them out loud with commentary. Now what makes those screenshots detonate instead of simmer is the timing. Because at the exact moment Blueface was typing those messages, he was not a single man. He was in a relationship with Nevaeh, and Nevaeh is pregnant. Not 2 months and nobody knows pregnant. Full term. Due. Hospital bag packed. Car seat installed. Waiting on a contraction. And while she waits, he texts. Y'all, somebody explain the mathematics of that to me, because I have sat with it for days and it still does not add up. There is a woman about to push a whole human being into the world with your last name attached to it, and your thumbs are busy in an old chapter. But it gets messy, eh? And I am not exaggerating for the thumbnail. There is a second woman. There is another young lady out here saying she is also carrying his child. I am not putting a name on her tonight, and I am not putting a due date on her tonight, And I want to be very clear that at this moment, that claim is a claim and nothing further has been confirmed. But she has said it publicly. Other people have repeated it, and it is now living rent-free in the same conversation as everything else. We will absolutely come back to her when there is something solid to hold. Just know she exists in this timeline, because you cannot understand what Chrisean walked into if you think she walked into a normal situation. So that is the actual room she walked into with her suitcase. Now, about Claressa. Before the flight, Chrisean Rock was moving with Claressa Shields, undisputed world champion. And that friendship made sense to me, because she has been serious about the boxing thing. She has been in gyms putting in real work, and if you were going to shadow anybody in that sport, you could not pick better. Claressa is a woman who has beaten everybody they put in front of her and then asked for the next one. And Claressa watched. That is what I keep coming back to. She watched this girl up close, watched her phone, watched her face change when a certain name came up, and then Claressa did something almost nobody in this circus has been willing to do. She said something. On camera. Stay away from you-know-who. She said it once. Then again. Then she said she had to say something, that she was telling her, and she said it a third time. Stay away from you-know-who. She would not even use the government name. She did not need to. Everybody in that room knew. Everybody watching knew, and Chrisean Rock knew. And then Claressa went somewhere that made my chest tighten, because she brought up the children. She asked how you were supposed to be a mother to them in the middle of all this. She called Blueface a bad dad. Flat. No cushion. No allegedly. Then she told her she was setting herself up. And what did she say back? I know. I know. I know. I know. 3 times. Not arguing. Not defending him. Not one word of pushback. Just I know. I know. I know. Like somebody reciting a fact they already accepted about themselves. Y'all, that exchange is the most honest 90 seconds anybody has produced in this entire saga, and it hurts worse than any diss, any leak, any live stream. Because a person saying I know is a person telling you the information was never the problem. She knew, and she got on the plane anyway. So let me ask you something before we go further, and I want a real answer in the comments, because I have gone back and forth for 3 days. When somebody tells you the truth, and you agree with them out loud, and then you do the opposite within days, is that a woman making a choice? Or a woman who cannot make one? Because those are 2 completely different videos, and I am not sure which one I am recording. Hold that thought, because now we go to Florida, Miami. The pictures came first, the way they always do. A club, low lighting, that grainy phone footage that makes everybody look guilty even when they are innocent. Then dinner. A whole sit-down dinner, food on the table, no crowd of 40 people to hide behind, no tour bus full of witnesses, no cameras from a show. 2 people at a table. The internet split into 2 camps, and I want to be fair to both. Camp 1 says calm down. Says they have a child together. Says they have business, history, court dates, appearances, 100 loose ends that require 2 adults in the same room. Camp 1 says a table is not a marriage. Camp 2 says be serious. And listen, I am sitting in Camp 2 with my coat off. Because you do not fly across the country in the middle of a public breakup, in the middle of a peace announcement, in the middle of the other woman's 9th month, to discuss logistics over lobster. That is not a meeting. That is not co-parenting. In my book, food, nighttime, club, and a ride home is a date, no matter what anybody calls it in a caption tomorrow. And here is where it turned from messy to unbelievable, because Blueface did not deny 1 letter of it. He got in front of a camera and said it out loud, in that flat voice he uses when he knows he is about to break the internet in half. Blueface said he loves Chrisean. Said he is not denying any of that. Said he loves all of them. And then he said the words that I think are going to follow him for the rest of his career. Screw it. I cheated. Yeah, so what? Yeah, so what? Let that sit. There is a pregnant woman due any day, and the father of her child looked at a camera and said yeah, so what? But he was not finished, and the second half is more revealing than the confession. Blueface said it is not going nowhere. He said she is not going anywhere. He said he has been telling us this all year. And then he dropped the line I think is the actual thesis of this entire thing, whether he meant it that way or not. He said they have nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. Y'all, I have watched this couple for years, and that is the most accurate sentence anybody has ever said about them. Not the sweetest. Not the cruelest. The most accurate. Because it is not a love story, and it is not a hate story. It is a gravity story. 2 people orbiting each other with no escape velocity between them. Now let me tell you why that confession was strategic, because I do not believe it was an accident. Think about what Blueface accomplished in 1 sentence. He confessed, so nobody gets to expose him. He said he loves her, which keeps that door propped. He said he loves all of them, which technically includes Nevaeh, so that bridge stays standing. He said so what, which flips apology into attitude, and attitude is what his audience pays for. And he said they have nowhere to go, which quietly tells every woman in this equation that leaving is not on the menu. That is not a slip. That is a business decision wearing a confession costume. And it worked. Look how we are all talking about Blueface tonight. Meanwhile, Chrisean Rock got in front of her own camera, and this is the part one need y'all to really hear, because people are clipping the first 10 seconds and missing what she actually said. She started off soft. She said it was wholesome, said she got a lot of love, said she did not even get to talk to some lady whose name she could not remember, and brushed it off, said that is not the focus right now. Then she said she did not want to come to the phone. She has to go work. She really just has to move forward. She cannot go backwards, and if she has to let it go, then she has to let it go. And then she said something I did not expect. She said he is blocked. Blocked. After Miami. After the dinner. After the club. Blocked. She said she does not really want anything to do with him personally. She keeps trying, but it is just not going to work with somebody like that. She said he is madly in love with her, so it is not going to work out, which is a sentence that broke my brain the first 3 times I heard it. She said he wanted it his way or no way. She does not want anything, does not need anything. She said she did want the co-parenting thing, and then she said it plain. That does not exist. That is the line, y'all. Out of everything anybody said this week, that is the one that actually tells you where we are. The co-parenting thing does not exist. She tried the mature version. She tried the version where 2 grown people raise a child in 2 separate houses and keep the peace. And she is telling us, on camera, that version is not available to her. And then she said something even heavier, and she did it in that quiet voice she uses when she is telling the truth instead of performing. She said something about him is really deep. She said you could try to say he is not, but he is. She said it is pretty bad. She did not finish that thought. She started to, and she pulled back. Now I have questions. Because that is not a woman describing a breakup. That is a woman describing a hold. And there is a very big difference between somebody you cannot get over and somebody you cannot get out from under. So where does that leave us? Chrisean Rock says she is moving forward, but she went backward as far as Miami. She says Blueface is blocked, but she was at a table with him. She says she does not want anything from him, but she showed us his text messages, and nobody shows you the texts of a man they have truly stopped thinking about. And Blueface says he loves her, but Blueface is having a baby with somebody else this week. Every single person in this story is telling on themselves and calling it honesty. Now let me take you to the person nobody has been fair to. Because while the internet runs box scores on Blueface and Chrisean Rock like it is a sport, there is a whole young woman sitting somewhere in her 3rd trimester watching her relationship become a punchline in real time. Her name is Nevaeh, and she posted. She went to Instagram, and she did not write a paragraph, did not tag anybody, did not name a single soul. She did something colder. She posted a clip. A baby boy clip. That was it. That was the whole response. And baby, the internet lost its entire mind trying to decode it. Because a woman who is due any minute posting a baby boy clip at the exact moment her man is confirmed to have been in another city with his ex is not making a cute announcement. That is a woman planting a flag. That is her saying, I am the one about to be in a delivery room. So run all the laps you want. The finish line is in my body. And people are reading between those lines like scripture. Some say it was a warning. Some say a countdown. Some say she was telling Chrisean Rock that whatever happened in Miami has an expiration date, and hers does not. Personally, that clip was the loudest thing posted all week, and she never said a word. Now here is what everybody needs to prepare for, and I want to go on record tonight, so y'all can come back and check me. I do not think Nevaeh stays quiet. I do not think a woman gets humiliated on a global stage at 9 months pregnant. Here's the father of her child say the words, yeah, so what? And then quietly folds laundry. That is not how this works. Once that baby is here, once the adrenaline drops and the visitors leave and the house gets quiet at 3 in the morning, Nevaeh is going to have a whole lot of time and a whole lot of phone. And she has been in that house. She knows the schedule. She knows the names. She knows what Blueface said to her when he thought nobody was recording. So Nevaeh might become an entire problem. She might blow this whole thing wide open. Or, and this is the outcome I am more afraid of, because I have seen it 100 times. Or she stays right there. She decides the baby needs a father in the house more than she needs her dignity in public. She takes the apology, the trip, the ring, whatever gets offered, and loves that man loudly and stupidly the way this circus has trained everybody to do. And if she does, nobody gets to be shocked. Because she watched Chrisean Rock do it first. That is what keeps rattling me. Chrisean Rock did not just live through this pattern, she taught it. Every woman who came after her has had a full instructional video available at all times. And they still walk in, knowing. So who is actually the villain here? I have seen the comments and I know the popular answer. The popular answer is Blueface, and there is a mountain of evidence behind it. But I want to be more precise than the comments section, Because precision is the only thing that helps anybody. Blueface is not hiding what he is. That is the uncomfortable truth. He has never once presented himself as a man who was going to be faithful, gentle, or conventional. He told us. He tells us weekly. He told us again this week with a camera in his face and no lawyer beside him. Screw it. I cheated. Yes, so what? There is no fine print on Blueface. He is a walking terms and conditions page nobody bothers to scroll. And Chrisean Rock is not being tricked. That is the other uncomfortable truth. Claressa Shields warned her to her face, and she said, I know. The texts were in her own hand. The pattern is documented in a reality show that she starred in, that she promoted, that she made money from. Nobody smuggled her into Miami in a duffel bag. She bought a ticket. So the villain here is not one person. The villain is the arrangement. The villain is the machine that pays both of them for exactly this. And let me show you the receipt, because this is the part almost nobody says out loud, and it is why this cycle will not break on its own. Look at what happened this week in pure business terms. Blueface confesses to cheating. That is a headline. Chrisean Rock flies to Miami. That is a headline. They are photographed at dinner. That is a headline. Blueface says they have nowhere to go. That is a headline. She says Blueface is blocked. That is a headline. Nevaeh posts a baby clip. That is a headline. Claressa Shields warns her on camera. That is a headline. A second alleged pregnancy floats through the timeline. That is a headline. 8 headlines. 1 week. 0 songs. 0 fights on a real card. 0 product. Do y'all understand what I am telling you? The drama is the product. The relationship is the catalog. Every reconciliation is a comeback single, and every blow-up is the promo run. They never have to release anything, because they are the release. And this is the part that makes me sad instead of entertained, because I do not want to be another channel that laughs at people. There are children in this. There is a little boy who will one day be old enough to type his parents' names into a search bar. He is going to find this week. He is going to find the words, yeah, so what? He is going to find the dinner, the club footage, the baby clip, the whole mess archived and impossible to delete. Claressa Shields was not being dramatic when she asked how you are supposed to mother children in the middle of this. She was asking the only question that matters, and the only one nobody in this story has answered. And her answer to Claressa was, I know. I know is not a plan. So now let me get into the part y'all came for, because I have been holding something, and it is time. I want to talk about why Chrisean Rock keeps going back to Blueface, and I do not mean the lazy internet answer. I do not want to hear trauma bond thrown around like a diagnosis by people who never opened a book. I want to walk through what is actually happening mechanically, because once you see the mechanics, you cannot unsee them, and you will start recognizing this pattern in people you know personally. Start with the timing. Look at when Blueface reached out. Blueface did not reach out when things were bad for him. He reached out when things were good for her. She was in the gym. She was moving with a world champion. She was building something with nothing to do with him, in a sport where he cannot manage her, cannot book her, cannot ride her name. For the first time in years, Chrisean Rock had an identity with no Blueface in it. And that is precisely when the phone started going off. Y'all, that timing is not romance. That is inventory management. When somebody only comes looking for you at the exact moment you stop needing them, they are not missing you. They are auditing you. Then look at the language. Blueface did not say I am sorry. Sorry surrenders power. He said he loves her, and love is an accusation you cannot argue with. He said he loves all of them, which makes her one of a set instead of a choice. He said they have nowhere to go, which deletes the exit. And he said so what, which puts the burden of being upset on everybody else. Every one of those moves takes power out of her hands without raising his voice once. Then look at what is being offered. Not a relationship. She is not being offered a home, a title, a future, or fidelity, and she knows it, because his other girlfriend is due this week, and he said it on camera. So what is on the table? Familiarity. That is it. That is the entire offer. And I need everybody to understand how powerful familiarity is when your whole life has been chaos. Because if the ground has been shaking under you since childhood, a person who shakes it in a rhythm you memorized does not feel like danger. He feels like home. Peace does not feel like peace. Peace feels like the calm before something you have not seen yet. Chrisean Rock said it herself, and I do not think she realized what she was confessing. She said she cannot go backwards. She has to move forward. But then she said if she has to let it go, she has to let it go. Listen to the grammar. If she has to. Like somebody else is making the call, and she is waiting on the paperwork. That is not a woman who has decided. That is a woman waiting to be released. And that is the most dangerous condition a person can be in. Because a woman who has decided will block you and stay blocked. A woman waiting to be released blocks you Tuesday and sits at your table Friday, and both are completely sincere. Now let me hand y'all the mirror, and this is where I probably lose some of you. We did this too. Every single one of us. Including me. And I am not going to pretend I am above my own content. We are the reason those 8 headlines were worth generating. We clicked the breakup. We clicked the reunion. We clicked the fight. We clicked the pregnancy. And every click sent a message up the chain that said, do it again, louder, and we will be here. There is not one video on this entire internet titled Chrisean Rock had a normal, quiet, healthy month. You know why? Nobody would watch it. I could not feed my channel with it. That is honest, and it should bother all of us a little. We say we want her to heal. We do not click healing. So when Claressa Shields said stay away from you-know-who, she was not just up against a man. She was up against a man, a machine, an audience, an algorithm, and a paycheck. One woman with a warning against all of that. Of course it lost. Now, what happens next? Because I want the actual roads on the map so we can watch which one they take. Road 1 is the quiet reconciliation. Nevaeh has the baby. The photos are perfect. Blueface posts a caption about legacy and family. The Miami trip becomes a thing nobody mentions. Chrisean Rock disappears from his mentions for 6 weeks. And then, somewhere around the fall, there is a birthday, or a court date, or a show. They are photographed within 4 feet of each other, and the cycle restarts with fresh sponsors. Road 2 is the explosion. Nevaeh delivers, and then Nevaeh talks. And when a woman who lived in the house talks, it does not come out as a subtweet. It comes out as receipts, screenshots, dates, locations. If Nevaeh goes that route, this stops being a gossip cycle and becomes a genuine crisis, because everything she knows, Chrisean Rock also knows, and those two agreeing on anything publicly would be the most destabilizing event in Blueface's career. Road 3 is the one almost nobody is betting on, and the only one that would be good for anybody. Chrisean Rock means it this time. She stays in that gym. She keeps that number changed. She lets Claressa Shields stay the loudest voice in her ear instead of the phone. She takes that post about hearing clearly from God and treats it like a contract instead of a caption. And I want to be fair, because she has proven people wrong before. She got sober when nobody believed she could. She got in shape when people were writing her off. She held down a whole show, a whole tour, a whole brand while being written about like a joke. Chrisean Rock is not weak. That is a lazy read, and I am not co-signing it. She is one of the most resilient people in this industry, and resilience is exactly why she keeps surviving things that would have ended somebody else. But resilience has a shadow side, and here it is. If you can survive anything, you will tolerate everything. That is the trap. That is the actual trap Chrisean Rock is in, and it is not stupidity, and it is not weakness, and it is not witchcraft, and it is not a spell. It is a strength that has been pointed in the wrong direction for years. Now let me circle back to something I skipped, because I promised y'all, and I do not leave loose ends. The second alleged pregnancy. I told you at the top there is another young lady out here saying she is carrying his child, and I said I was not going to spend the night on it, because nothing has been verified. I stand by that. But I do need to show y'all why that single unconfirmed claim changes the entire shape of this story, even while it is still just a claim. Because if it is true, look at the calendar. That would mean that inside the same window of time, Blueface would have a full-term pregnancy with one woman, a separate pregnancy claim from another, a documented text campaign aimed at his ex, and a confirmed trip to Miami with that same ex. All at once. All overlapping. That is not a man in a relationship, and not a man in 3 relationships. That is a man running a rotation, keeping everybody just close enough to stay, and just far enough to never be first. And every woman in that rotation thinks she is the exception. Nobody signs up to be an option. Everybody believes they will be the different one, and Blueface never has to convince anybody of anything because the competition does it for him. So when Blueface said he loves all of them, I do not think he was being romantic or sloppy. I think he was telling us exactly how the system operates, and we all laughed because he said it in a funny voice. Now watch what Blueface said right after. He said it is not going nowhere. He said she is not going anywhere. He said he has been telling us this the whole year. He has been telling us. Blueface is proud that we did not believe him. That is the flex. The flex is not the cheating. The flex is that he announced it in advance, we argued about it, and then he did it and pointed at the calendar. And that brings me to what I believe is the real story of this week, and it is not the trip, and it is not the confession. It is the blocking. Stay with me. Chrisean Rock said Blueface is blocked. She said it after Miami. Not before. After. And I have watched that clip probably 15 times now, and the more I watch it, the more I think that block was not about him at all. I think that block was her trying to stop herself. Because you do not block a man you are done with. A man you are done with does not need blocking. He is just a name that does not do anything to you anymore. You block a man you know you would answer. Blocking is not a punishment you give somebody else. It is a lock you put on your own hand. And that reframes everything else in that clip, does it not? She said she keeps trying. She said it is just not going to work with somebody like that. She said he is madly in love with her, which I now think is her way of explaining why he keeps coming. Because if he is madly in love, then his pursuit makes sense, and her not answering becomes an act of strength instead of rejection. Every sentence was a woman building a fence with her bare hands while standing on the wrong side of it. And she is doing it in public, camera on, an entire industry profiting off whether or not that fence holds. I do not know how anybody does that. Let me play devil's advocate against myself, because I owe y'all that, and I know some of you are typing already. Some of you will say I am far too soft on Chrisean Rock, and there is a real case for that. A case that says a grown woman with children, resources, a platform, and a world champion in her ear does not get infinite grace for the same decision. A case that says every time she goes back she is teaching her son what a household looks like. A case that says the receipts she posts are not evidence, they are engagement, and she knows exactly what a screenshot does to a timeline. That case is not cruel. It is fair, and if that is where you land, I am not fighting you in the comments. And some of you are going to say I am far too hard on Blueface, and there is a case there too. A case that says a man who tells you exactly who he is from day one is more honest than half the men out here with wedding rings and secret phones. A case that says Blueface never promised monogamy to anybody and cannot be convicted of breaking a promise he did not make. A case that says the women in his life are adults who can read, and treating them like they were kidnapped removes their agency entirely. I hold both of those cases at the same time, and I still land in the same place. Because here is what neither argument survives. There is a woman about to give birth this week, and she found out on the internet. You can be as honest as you want about who you are. You can be as unpromised as you like. None of that touches the fact that a woman in her 9th month opened her phone and saw the man she is about to have a child with sitting at a table in Miami with his ex, and then heard Blueface tell the entire world, yeah, so what? There is no philosophy that fixes that. No take. No debate. That is cruelty with good timing. So that is where I am tonight, and I want to be honest about where my head is, because I have covered these two for years, and this particular week hit different. It is not the cheating. We knew. It is not the trip. Honestly, we half expected it. It is the I know. It is a young woman sitting next to a world champion who loved her enough to tell her the truth on camera, hearing that truth, agreeing with it out loud 3 separate times, and getting on a plane anyway. That is the part one cannot shake. That is the part still in my head next week. Because the information was never the problem. Not once. Everybody in this story has all of it, and has had it for years. Documented, archived, searchable, televised. Nobody in this saga is uninformed. They just cannot use it. And that is a much sadder story than the one in the thumbnail, and it is the one I actually believe. Let me leave y'all a few things to chew on, because there are pieces I cannot resolve, and I want the comment section on them. Number 1. Who told the cameras? Think about it. Miami is a big city. There are ways to be in a big city and not be seen. Private rooms exist. Back entrances exist. Cars with tin exist. And these are 2 of the most photographed people in this lane of the internet, both of whom spent years learning how a leak travels. So how did the club footage get out? How did the dinner get out? Same week, same order, same convenient framing? I am not saying it was staged. I am saying I have watched this couple long enough to know things get seen when somebody wants them seen, and I want somebody in the comments to tell me who benefited most from that footage existing. Because I have a name in my head, and I am not saying it tonight. Number 2. Where's the boxing? Chrisean Rock was in the gym. She was with a world champion. That was a real path, a legitimate, sustainable, respectable path with nothing to do with any of this. So I want to know if it is still open. I want to know if Claressa Shields is still answering. I want to know if that friendship survived the flight to Florida, because friendships do not always survive being right. And honestly, that is the update I want more than anything else in this story. Not the relationship. The gym. Number 3. The number. She said she was changing her number. Did she? Because if it changed and Blueface still got a message through, then somebody in her circle passed it along. Which means the leak in her life is not the man, it is the people around her. And if that number never changed at all, then the post was never a boundary, it was a performance, and we need to adjust how we read her posts going forward. I do not know the answer, but that is the smallest detail in this story, and it might be the most important one. So let me put it to y'all directly, and I want real answers, not emojis, because I read these comments and I do respond. Was that Miami trip Chrisean Rock making a free choice as a grown woman who is allowed to do whatever she wants with her own life? Or was that her getting pulled back into an orbit she has been trying to escape for 4 years straight? And the harder one, if Nevaeh forgives him this week, are you allowed to judge her? Or does the fact that she is holding a newborn in a hospital gown while the man she loves is trending for something else buy her the same grace we keep extending to Chrisean Rock? And the hardest one, and sit with it before you type. Would any of this be happening if we were not watching? If the cameras went off tomorrow, if the channels went dark, if the clicks dried up, would Blueface still be flying his ex out to Miami in the 9th month? Or is a portion of this, maybe a large portion, being performed for us? I have my answer. I want yours. And one last thing, because a piece of information came across my desk while I was putting this together, and I am not ready to put it out tonight. It concerns the timeline of the Miami trip, specifically who arranged it and who paid for it. And if what I am hearing is accurate, then everything I just told you about who is chasing who may be completely backwards. I need one more day on it. I need to hear it from a second place before I put my name on it, because I do not do that to people, and I am not about to start. But be ready, because if that turns out to be true, this is not a story about a man who could not let go. It is a story about a woman who never wanted to. So do me a favor. Drop your take in the comments, tell me which road you think they take, and tell me honestly if you think this ever ends. Hit that like button so this reaches the people who need to see it, and subscribe if you are not already, because when I get that confirmation, and I will, you want to be here the night I say it out loud. I love y'all. Be good to yourselves, and I will talk to you very soon.